Hamas is saying it is seeking to extend the current truce should Israel make what it says are serious efforts to increase the number of Palestinian detainees freed. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, in a conversation with the US President Joe Biden, said he would welcome extending the truce if it led to the release of 10 additional hostages each day. This all the while saying Israel will resume its campaign once the 4-day ceasefire is over. Biden says Washington is working to get the ceasefire deal extended. Let's listen.
That's my goal. That's our goal, to keep this pause going beyond tomorrow so that we can continue to see more hostages come out and surge more humanitarian relief into those who are in need in Gaza. We've seen this is the day-by-day approach, hour-by-hour process. Nothing is guaranteed, and nothing is being taken for granted. But the proof that this is working and worth pursuing further is in every smile and every grateful tear we see on the faces of those families who are finally getting back together again.
Now, for more, I want to go to Christopher O Leary, who is a senior vice president for global operations for the Soufan Group and a former FBI counterterrorism leader and US government director of hostage recovery. Welcome to you. What is your assessment of this hostage takeover underway this weekend? This is very much the early stages in terms of the around 240 people being held by Hamas. Women and children are being released now. What kind of scenarios can we expect concerning those detained who are not women and children, of course? For example, Israeli soldiers.
Well, I think you kind of just highlighted the complexity of this. It's a pragmatic approach to continue through this negotiated truce for the next couple of days, to likely try to extend it a little beyond there to get as many of the hostages that Hamas would be willing to release, whether it's wounded, whether it's the elderly, whether it's people with medical conditions. I think we could extend this with the partnership with Qatar, who's been involved in these type of negotiations with the U.S. Several times over the last few years. But I think we can build on what the early successes are. But I would like to caution people, which you just kind of highlighted. The IDF soldiers will not be just released by Hamas for many reasons. Number one, their currency. Number two, they buy time for Hamas to hopefully survive this. And then number three, it's protection. If Hamas released all of the hostages, Israel, like Egypt did in the past, would just flood all of the tunnels underneath Gaza.
Looking at the role of the United States in all of this, it's trying to extend the ceasefire, with Israel at the same time saying that this truce could be extended for an extra day for every additional 10 hostages freed. Now, among the concerns for the US president is the actual detention of American hostages. What approach can Washington take in trying to tackle this situation, exert pressure in its own way?
Well, this is a little bit of an unusual hostage situation for the United States. Number one, all of these victims are dual American and Israeli citizens. So that's problem number one. Number two, we have an incredible relationship with the Qataris. They've been exceptional partners over the last few years in hostage matters. We actually just did a scenario with them, an exercise back in July, trying to prepare for a complex international hostage incident that would involve both of us. Having said that, these U.S. citizens, I think, will see additional women and children get released. But there's also at least one U.S. citizen who's a uniformed IDF member. So the U.S. has influence with Israel and some leverage because we support them financially, but we don't have control. We cannot tell them what to do. We can guide and advise and request, but at the end of the day, they are going to pursue their national interests, not those of the United States.
Now, Mr. O'Leary, you have over 2 decades of service working on counter-terrorism investigations. Can you give us a historical perspective? How do events now, for example, compare to episodes in the past? I'm thinking of the Munich Olympic Games in 1972, when Black September, a militant Palestinian group, held hostages to seek exactly what we're seeing now, which is the release of Palestinian prisoners.
Well, I'll tell you, interestingly, We have, in the last couple of years, tried to create an initiative called the Multilateral Fused Response, which was intended to synchronize the efforts of Western European nations with the United States. And we actually brought the Qataris into this to respond in a synergized way to a complex international hostage matter. But we looked at examples such as Munich Olympics, the Achille Lauro event, TWA 847 in 1985, there was no harmony of effort. We could never imagine something this monumental and this complex. It's important to also point out, and the lack of discretionary targeting on behalf of Israel has, given them a lot of critics that they are, it's disproportional, that they're human rights violations, and that might be true. But the taking of hostages is also a human rights violation. It's a violation of international law under the 1979 Convention Against Hostage Taking. And the reason we do not give concessions to hostage takers is because it rewards bad behavior. If Israel was not to pursue Hamas and punish them for their activities, if there was just a peace agreement, it would only embolden them to do this kind of activity in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you, Christopher O Leary. You are a Senior Vice President for Global Operations for the SUFAN Group and a former FBI counterterrorism leader and US Government Director of Hostage Recovery. Thank you to you.